Founders, it is time to become a pro newsletter writer. I mean, I know we all have a lot of newsletters in our inboxes, but this is one you don't want to skip. You need to be writing an investor newsletter. Why is this so important? Two main things. Number one, you're going to keep your investors engaged. You want to keep them up to date on how things are going, and you're going to make important asks of them because a lot of your investors want to help. Two, your investor newsletter is an effective fundraising tool. You'll be able to keep people informed, and someone who is interested at the start may become an investor down the road.
So for today's video, we have an example of a fake company called Hippo Love, and we're going to walk through that investor update. And for the record, we really do not like hippos in our company. Ignore that. All right, so let's get into this. Uncapped Notes is a series produced by Hustle Fund, designed for first-time founders.
Follow us on socials, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.
All right, so let's break down what this newsletter actually looks like. And if you want to follow along, you can go to this link at the top and copy and paste it for yourself and your own needs. So let us show you what is happening here. At Hustle Fund, as Janelle mentioned, this is a really important engagement mechanism that we have with our own investors and prospective investors as well. What I like to do is add a little bit of humanity at the very top of our newsletters. So we usually share a small personal update of what's going on, maybe with our team or our own personal lives. Sometimes I actually include pictures of my kids. It's a nice way to sort of begin the newsletter to show that you're a fun team of good human beings. I think that every founder should have an executive summary at the top of their newsletter that shares some of the most important points. So things including your top line revenue numbers or your most important metrics, maybe some growth numbers here or key hires. These are the things that are great takeaways, and sometimes even an ask or a major thing that's happening, both positive and negative. Those things that you can expose at the top are important because you can't assume that everyone's going to read through. A lot of times, founders also forget to repeat themselves in terms of repitching what they do. Some investors have a huge portfolio, or people even forget what they invest in, as crazy as that sounds. And we think that having a quick summary at the top that reminds folks of your mission, what you do, your products, that's good to have. So that's what you're seeing with this What Does Hippo Love Do? The key asks. So there's always something that you could use help on, whether it's hiring or coaching or fundraising advice. That's all there too. And having that towards the top is really great. Now, sometimes some founders actually do things like include a Calendly link or some sort of VimCal link or a mechanism to schedule time with the founders in a very easy way. That might not be bad to include here too. And I'll get back to that in a little bit. So goals, I'd like to see that founders are setting some sort of milestone that they're trying to reach, and having a bulleted set of goals is always great. You'll notice that this is a very bullet-oriented update too. This is not about reading lots and lots of long-form essays here. This update can be pretty long, but something that's skimmable. Of course, there's some highlights here. You're not always going to have that, but this is a section that I like to see as an investor too, of just like, yeah, we set this goal, we didn't really make it. Hippo Love is struggling from this last month, but this is what our projections look like. If there's any relevant data and so forth, it's great. So one of the things that investors have to do when we are considering an additional investment or even reporting on investment is often some sort of memo that has to be written, shared with the team, shared with our investment committee and team members. Data is something that is great because it's something that we can actually just copy and paste in our own memos as well. So think about including things like that. Okay, let's move on to the next section. They don't really need to have this final stats thing every time, but if there is a very big milestone that you want to reiterate, include that. And then this last section is critical, which is thank yous. So there was a book that I read a long time ago by Chip and Dan Heath called Made to Stick. And the big lesson that I learned here was if you train people to an area of your newsletter update, a newspaper, what have you, where they can actually have a chance to see their own name being listed, this is a great way of getting people to read to the end. So on the Hustle Fund newsletter, sometimes we have like 12 people that we're sharing shout outs and thank yous to. We call this our Thanksgiving section. And it lists out all the people who helped us in the previous month. So I encourage you to do this too. This is also a kind of a nice name dropping mechanism to maybe reiterate the orbit of people around you. So if you know Kanye or Beyonce, which I don't know, or if to a lesser extent a D-list celebrity like Elizabeth Yin, then it's good to include people like that because that can give a sense of the community that you're surrounding yourself with and also FOMO people into helping you out too. Now, a last thing here. I want to come back to this Calendly link idea here, and we sort of showed this at the very end with Rhonda's update. Why I think this investor newsletter is such an important fundraising mechanism is this is essentially a drip campaign. We recommend that founders put out these newsletters on a monthly basis. And for those prospective investors, and you should feel free to include prospective investors in the newsletter, this is a monthly reminder of the work that you're doing as well as a progress report of what you're doing within your team, all that good work. So when you get to the time where you're ready to raise that next seed capital or extension on your round or a bigger round as well, if you include a Calendly link to say like things are going great, we're thinking about doing a little round with our insiders first before we raise something bigger. Here's my Calendly link if you want to schedule time. Wow, if you've done your work well, you're going to see a lot of people signing up to schedule time with you. And it is an auto magic way of rounding up capital. And this is exactly what we've been doing at Hustle Fund for all these years since our inception, is corralling more and more investors into our newsletters and FOMOing them into investing in future funds. All right, Janelle, so we took a look at the Hippo Love example, but what are some other key takeaways or things that we should emphasize as we leave things off for this Uncapped Notes episode?
So you alluded to this, Eric, but I think it's really important to emphasize that consistency is paramount. Whether it's once a month or once a quarter or once every other week, you want the folks on your investor newsletter to get used to hearing from you at a regular cadence. Second, this newsletter should naturally show your evolution. So, because this is that eternal fundraising tool, you will be able to go back over months, years, and show how you have grown from pre-seed to whatever series you're raising.
Janelle, I think these are really great points. On that last one too, your newsletter is something that you may even be able to include in data rooms over time. So as you get more and more mature in your business, sometimes analysts or partners like to see the entire gamut of all of your updates, and you'll have that neatly organized through these newsletters. And I think, Janelle, we just got to emphasize one more time, because we are investors, about FOMO. This idea that newsletters can be a way to slowly pitch your company over time, it works. There have been people that we said no to who have turned around and said yes to us because of our newsletters. So this is a food for thought for the founders who are watching today for this Uncapped Notes episode. If someone says no to you on an investment, invite them into the newsletter anyway, because you might find that over time they'll finally understand what you're trying to build, and at a later time you may be able to get them as an investor as well. Any other advice that you would have for an effective newsletter? Are there any other practices that you think would be helpful for founders to know about? Please let us know in the comments.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to Uncapped Notes.